The only thing for me is I've finished seeing the second season of One Punch Man on Netflix, and
Okay. Because I
yeah,
remember you reviewed the first season.
yes, I remember viewing the first season a while back, and it's one of these things where I think most people who've wanted to watch the second season of One Punch Man in the UK have had to go through uh, less official routes than Netflix, shall I say? Because it seems to have been out for ages, but just hasn't come here for ages. And the weird thing about it is that even though I have watched One Punch Man, I know how Netflix every now and then it just pops up and tells you, "Oh, this thing you're watching, there's more episodes of it." Nothing like that happened. I'd watched One Punch Man on Netflix. I'd seen nothing about it, and then one day I was just sort of scrolling through. Funny enough, after having a chat with a friend of mine, and talking about, yeah, I haven't seen One Punch Man season 2 yet. I just noticed, oh, One Punch Man's there. Hang on a second, there's new episodes. Why wasn't I told about this? And the whole idea behind it is that it's a Japanese manga. It's a Japanese manga. It's centered around this character called Saitama, and this guy he's called Saitama, and he's someone who one well, I can't remember what the original story was, but he decides to train and train and train and train to become like, the to become like the hardest hero in the world and everything like that. And he finds that he's trained so much and he's trained so hard that he is essentially unbeatable. So everything that he does, like every time he meets a foe, he defeats them with one punch. Like he even when he's not trying, he defeats them with one punch. And it becomes this really weird thing where it's almost kind of like a satire of your typical Japanese adventure show, which is usually about this person going and finding, and I must train, and I must become a sensei, and I must reach this sensei, I must do this thing, and I'll fight this kaiju, and I'll fight that kaiju. And it's all about how they keep building and how they keep building, going, and things like Dragon Ball Z. It's all about getting stronger and finding the next biggest opponent. But this show just sort of flips all of that on its head, because you have this hero who is just bored and bored out of his skull because there is absolutely no challenge for him whatsoever. So there's people, all these things, people, and there's like monsters coming to the thing, and he just sort of speaks in this sort of like monotone where it's all in Japanese, so I can't really do the monotone, but it's just kind of like oh wow, look, another monster. Yeah, I guess I'll go fight that then. And he's just so, and the word that a friend of mine, Yatish, who I was talking to about this, uses to describe this is ennui. He just has this ennui about everything. He's just kind of like, oh well, okay, fine. There's another monster. Can you deal with it? Okay, can nobody else deal with it? And I find this show hilarious. I think it's hilarious because it goes into all the sort of, it's almost kind of like, it's a satire on sort of what Japanese mangas usually are like. It's a satire on what sort of like adventure cartoons and stories usually are like. I think it's even stretching in this particular season. Is even stretching into a satire of things like the superhero world and all that. Because in this world, you have a superhero association, and all the superheroes are ranked based on how many saves they do, and whether people have seen them on social media, and how much credit they take for defeating monsters. And so they go into this whole thing about the different levels of, there's a class A hero and there's a class S hero. And in this one, you actually have the monsters have had enough of being beaten up on. So the monsters decide to set up their own organization. And there's a monster organization
Oh, right.
that comes together to go and have revenge on the humans for so. And they have all these other things. Like there's a character who is, there's a character who has been watching all these shows from when he was a kid. And they have a way you watch all these TV shows, and he's like, why are the heroes always winning? What about the poor monster? And this guy seems to be almost sort of like the opposite of Saitama, in that he goes, you know what? I'm tired of them always, of the heroes always winning. I'm tired of them beating up on the poor monsters. I'm going to train to become the strongest monster, and I am going to take out all the heroes. And so they have all these storylines that in most other shows would be like the main storyline or the big bad for the season, everything like that. And the trick of One Punch Man is that you have Saitama, who's the hero in the center of all this stuff, who just really doesn't care. He really doesn't care. He sort of like just sort of swans through life. He's sometimes he's more interested in beating a video game or getting to the end of a video game than he is about like a new monster showing up, because he's like, oh yeah, well, you'll see what happens, because he knows that the second he shows up and the second he sort of like lifts a finger, it's over. It's over. And so this season 2 ends in a kind of like in a comeback for season 3 way. And when it comes to Japanese mangas, I usually have a thing where there's one particular one. There's one called Bleach. I'm sorry, Japanese animes rather. And there's one particular, there's one called Bleach, and I can't watch this because it's never ending. Bleach has something like over 300 episodes, and from what I understand, it hasn't stopped. And so, yes. I know I've been talking for too long, but it hasn't stopped. But for One Punch Man, I think each season is around about 12 episodes long, and it's as if they know. Yes, we know this is what happens. We know this is what happens in most animes, and they just rip it out, and they just sort of like make fun of it. So it's quite satirical. I quite like it. I would give One Punch Man season 2 4 out of 5 stars, and it's a very easy watch. There are some bits where you feel as if, okay, no, that's going on a bit long now. Okay, cool, fine, keep it. But generally speaking, One Punch Man, brilliant show. I think.
Because normally they're quite compact episodes, aren't they? Sort of like 20-25 minutes. Is that right?
It's run about 25 minutes. I mean, I wouldn't go as far as, because if we talk about different predilections, I am the animation guy on this show. Yeah. I am the animation guy. If something is animated, I'm kind of like, yes, let's go. This is one of the greatest art forms you ever have. And you are the opposite.
I'm the opposite. Yeah.
You're the opposite. You think animation, it must be rubbish. And I wouldn't go as far as to say that this is an animation show that I think you would enjoy, because I think that there's things to do with it, and there's things to do with the style of the show and the way it works that I think you would enjoy. But overall, I don't think it's enough for you to get into it. No. So but if you like animation, if you're wondering about Japanese anime and everything like that, I think One Punch Man would be quite good. But if you're really into Japanese anime, I think that there's people who are more into Japanese anime than I am, and they would get a lot much out of One Punch Man because they will get all the different references that I miss out on, and I just think this is hilarious. But the way I go about it, so that is it for me with One Punch Man season 2, and with